Welcome to Mindcast, the podcast that explores emerging technologies across all domains and fields. I'm your host, Will, and today's episode is particularly special because we're focusing specifically on AI applications in secondary school teaching. What we're exploring today goes beyond just understanding the technology. We're providing schools with a practical template for contemplating and introducing transformative tools like Google's Gemini suite into their educational environments. Now, I know what you're thinking, another episode about AI in schools, right? But stick with me because what we're discussing today isn't just about shiny new technology. It's about addressing three interconnected crises that are quite literally breaking our education system. And the data I'm going to share with you is both sobering and urgent. Let's start with the elephant in the room, teacher workload. And when I say workload, I'm not talking about being a bit busy. I'm talking about a full-blown crisis that's destroying lives and careers. UK secondary teachers are working an average of 49.3 hours per week, significantly higher than the OECD average of 41 hours. That's the equivalent of working a 6-day week every single week. But here's the kicker. These excessive hours aren't primarily spent on teaching. A massive 75% of teachers report spending too much time on general administrative work. 3/4 of our highly trained, passionate educators are drowning in paperwork instead of inspiring young minds. And the human cost? It's devastating. 84% of teachers experienced more work-related stress in the last 12 months, and 86% report that their job has adversely impacted their mental health. We're literally burning out the people we depend on to educate our children. Now, let's talk about our students. While teachers are drowning in admin, something equally alarming is happening in our classrooms. A phenomenon researchers are calling the Year 7 engagement cliff. A student finishes Year 6 with a school enjoyment score of 6.0 out of 10. They transition to secondary school, and by Year 7, that score plummets to just 3.8. By Year 8, it's down to 3.2. Once students disengage at this stage, they rarely re-engage at the same level again. This isn't just a UK problem, but is particularly acute here. In 2023, only 11% of Year 9 pupils strongly agreed that they like being in school, down from 19% in 2019. The percentage of Year 9 girls who strongly agree that they feel safe at school fell from 43% to just 21% between 2019 and 2023. The third crisis is our curriculum itself. The House of Lords Committee concluded that recent reforms have resulted in an overloaded curriculum. Teachers are forced to rush through material, teaching to the test, leaving no time for deep learning, curiosity, or developing critical thinking skills. One student testified to the committee, "I can't tell you how many classes I've been in where the teacher has said, 'Put your hand down, I can't take questions this lesson because we just need to get through the content.'" That quote should break the heart of anyone who cares about education. And perhaps most critically, we're failing to prepare students for their future. The current digital skills gap is estimated to cost the UK up to £60 billion a year. Yet in 2023, only 14% of pupils took computer science GCSE, currently the only dedicated computing qualification available at Key Stage 4. These three crises aren't separate problems. They're locked in a destructive feedback loop. The overloaded curriculum drives rigid teaching that disengages students. Disengaged students create more behavioral challenges, increasing teacher workload. Excessive workload leads to burnout and teacher attrition, further destabilizing the system. So, what's the solution? This is where Google's Gemini AI suite comes in, and why I'm genuinely excited about its potential. But let me be clear. This isn't about replacing teachers or turning education into some dystopian tech nightmare. It's about strategic intervention that directly addresses each of these problems. For teachers drowning in admin, Gemini offers a lifeline. Imagine being able to summarize complex email threads in seconds, generate draft lesson plans from simple prompts, or automatically capture meeting notes so you can actually focus on the discussion. We're talking about reclaiming hours every week, time that can be reinvested in what teachers actually train to do: teach, inspire, and support students. For students struggling with engagement, Gemini provides personalized support that can adapt to individual learning needs. A student who's struggling with a concept in maths can get a step-by-step explanation tailored to their level of understanding, available whenever they need it. No judgment, no embarrassment, just patient, adaptive support that builds confidence.
And for the curriculum challenges, AI tools can help teachers differentiate on the fly. Take a standard text and instantly re-level it for Year 7 reading age, or simplify scientific explanations for students with English as an additional language. We're talking about making the rigid curriculum more flexible and responsive to student needs. But here's the crucial part, and this is what makes this strategic framework so compelling. It's not about a big bang implementation. The authors propose a carefully managed 3-phase approach that's both pragmatic and financially prudent. Phase 1 is brilliant in its simplicity. It's a foundational rollout using entirely free tools. Google Workspace for Education Fundamentals focused solely on reducing teacher administrative workload. No software costs, minimal risk, but immediate impact. This phase is about proving the concept and building staff confidence. Phase 2 then involves strategic investment in paid licenses for specific groups, like the Year 7 teaching team to combat that engagement cliff, or GCSE teachers who need better tools for creating practice materials and providing feedback. This targeted approach allows schools to measure impact and build momentum. Phase 3 is whole school integration, but only after proving value in the earlier phases. At this point, AI literacy becomes embedded in the curriculum, and schools establish permanent governance structures for sustainable, ethical use. Now, I want to address the risks. Academic integrity is probably the most discussed concern. The answer isn't to ban the technology, it's to teach responsible use and adapt our assessment methods. We need to shift from testing information recall to assessing higher-order skills like analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Algorithmic bias is another critical concern. Schools need robust monitoring systems to check whether AI tools are producing differential outcomes for different student groups. If a tool systematically disadvantages certain students, that must be addressed immediately. Data protection is absolutely non-negotiable. Under UK GDPR, schools remain legally responsible for student data, even when using third-party services. This means conducting thorough data protection impact assessments and maintaining transparency about how data is used. Here's what excites me most about this framework. It recognizes that the biggest investment isn't in software licenses, it's in people. There's an emerging AI digital divide in UK education. Teachers in private schools are more than twice as likely to have received formal AI training compared to their state school counterparts, 45% versus 21%. The framework proposes foundational training for all staff, advanced training for department leads, and strategic training for senior leaders. This isn't a one-off training session. It's ongoing professional development that treats AI literacy as a core professional skill. Let me share some numbers that really bring this to life. For a typical secondary school with 70 teaching staff, the annual cost of providing AI Pro licenses to all teachers would be £10,584. If these AI tools save each teacher just 3 hours per week from administrative tasks, that's 210 hours of professional time reclaimed every single week. That's time that can be reinvested in targeted student intervention, collaborative planning, and personalized feedback, all activities that directly improve educational outcomes. If this investment prevents just a few experienced teachers from leaving due to workload stress, it could entirely offset the software costs while maintaining the stability that students need for success. And here's the crucial insight. The greatest risk isn't in the careful adoption of this technology, it's in doing nothing. Inaction means accepting unsustainable teacher workloads, continued student disengagement, and a growing skills gap that leaves young people unprepared for their futures. Early adopters in education have noted that the biggest risk is doing nothing. While we debate and delay, our students are struggling, our teachers are burning out, and other institutions are gaining competitive advantages. This framework isn't just about technology adoption, it's about transforming education culture. It's about creating learning environments where teachers can focus on teaching, where students receive personalized support that reignites their curiosity, and where everyone develops the critical thinking skills needed to navigate an AI-enhanced world.
What particularly impresses me about this strategic framework is its practical realism. It acknowledges financial constraints in state education and provides a risk-managed pathway that schools can actually implement. The three-phase approach builds momentum through early wins. Phase 1 proves the concept with free tools. Phase 2 demonstrates impact through targeted investment. Phase 3 scales success across the whole organization. So where do we go from here? The framework provides clear recommendations. Appoint an AI lead, form a cross-departmental champions team, prioritize professional development, integrate data protection from day one, and focus targeted investment on key educational challenges. But perhaps most importantly, it calls for courage. Courage to acknowledge that the current system isn't working and to lead rather than follow in an educational transformation that's already underway. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. We're at a pivotal moment in education. The challenges we face, teacher workload, student disengagement, curriculum pressures, are interconnected and urgent. They require strategic intervention. Google's Gemini AI suite, implemented through the thoughtful, phased approach we've discussed today, offers a powerful catalyst for positive change. Not as a replacement for human wisdom and care, but as a tool that amplifies what educators do best. The question isn't whether AI will transform education, it's whether we'll lead that transformation thoughtfully and ethically, or whether we'll be passive observers. That's all for today's episode of Mindcast. I'm Will, and I'll be back next week with more insights from the intersection of technology and education. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing for the kind of education our young people deserve.